Hey guys, I'm your host, Coin Icarus, and my co-host, Nico, aka BitVolt7, is going to join us in a few minutes. And this is another episode of Simply Bitcoin, a daily weekday show recapping the Bitcoin news, fails, price action, and of course, no shitcoins, because after all, it's Simply Bitcoin. Thanks for joining us again. It is Thursday, August 6th, 2020. And we are going to jump right into taking a look at our dashboard. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin block height.
See what's going on with BTC.
Let's see. Okay. So we are looking at block height, 642,551, price of 11,806. And GBTC premium 27.7.
Bro, that keeps going up. It was at 23% at the beginning of the week.
That's right. So, if nothing else, we're tracking that and take a look, right? We're at 11,806 and we seem to be building a nice little base right above that, right above that point where we broke out from the downtrend. So,
absolutely.
Very nice, but we will talk about that a little bit later. Okay, so should we
the daily fail. What is the daily fail today, Phil?
All right, guys. The daily fail goes out to a Bitcoiner, but unfortunately it goes out to somebody with a bad take today. We're gonna give the daily fail over to Udi for this post on Twitter.
Dude, so when I saw this, Phil, I thought he was joking. I thought he was pulling off an American hodl. What do you think?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Udi is known for trolling Bitcoiners, and don't get me, he's a Bitcoiner, but sometimes, man, sometimes he makes these shitcoin posts, and I just, it's funny, right? Like the point has been argued ad nauseum why Ethereum is not money. Okay. Like there's no question there, right? You're talking the difference between a playground and the real thing. So Ethereum's where you go to move fast and break things. And, he makes this comment that, the ETH ICO was somehow scammy and that's just lazy. It's like, you know what? At this point, it's not lazy. It's not lazy. It's just the point has been made. So you're simply summarizing it by giving it one sentence. So yeah, I think ETH has, been definitely pounded into the ground in terms of comparison to Bitcoin. And I think it's just a weak freaking take on his part.
Absolutely. But I just think that he's just it's very shallow, his take, because it's giving just a purely investing standpoint. It's not really talking about the fundamentals of ETH, right? He's just looking at it from like purely an investing standpoint, which I think that as a Bitcoiner himself, I just think he buried his own hole here.
I think, you know what? I think you make a very good point. Like that also, it's like, oh, okay. So because somebody earned money, it wasn't scammy. Oh, okay. So then you know what? All the people who earned money in the Bernie Madoff scams, like it wasn't scammy.
Dude, BitConnect.
Because there were people at the top that made tons of money for decades.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't scammy because some people made money. Some people made money in BitConnect. Some people made money in OneCoin. Still scammy. So anyways, yeah, he's our daily fail.
It's a good daily fail. It's a good one. So the Bitcoin price has been kind of interesting. Yeah, definitely today. It was a pretty interesting day in terms of Bitcoin. It started off today at 11,700 and it pushed up to the 11,800 area. Like I said yesterday, it's kind of, I would say, calming down the volatility. I expect definitely a movement down from this 11,800. If it doesn't move down, I'm not really sold on if it breaks 12,000. I know that the Winklevi, to say how you say it, they made a big deal out of it today, saying, here Bitcoin 12,000, end of the week, and they added a poll and everything. I don't think 12,000 is a big deal. I think 12.5K is the next resistance. I think that's the target to be looking for. And on the other side, right, yin and yang, we must stay above 10,500 to remain bullish. I think that's a very key point to kind of, kind of pay attention to. We have to stay above that 10,500 area. So man, if we go sideways, honestly, Coin Icarus for another month in this price range, honestly, that'd make me very happy, because that's showing me another support that shows strength.
That's exactly right. We're building another base of accumulation.
Absolutely. And that's very bullish, guys. And if we zoom out, right, just real quick, right, if we zoom out, this is why the 10,500 is so important, right? It's historically, it's shown that that's an area of resistance. So now it's an area of support, right? But historically speaking, you know, if this green line is the present price action, man, you know, we're pretty fucking high up. This is a pretty bullish price. I know that everyone's getting bored as fuck and they're like, listen, if it's not 20K, I'm bored, right? But historically speaking, Bitcoin has only been here 3 times before. So
I know it's very interesting, and it's funny how the human mind works. And I think that something that people don't realize about Bitcoin is that it trades 24/7. So it's very interesting to see massive moves unwind in real time. Like in the stock market, you know, you stop, and the next day, you know, I mean, obviously there's some after hours trading, and the next day it picks back up again. Like, you know, if something is bleeding, it stops. And then the next day, you know, it'll maybe pump a little or continue downwards, whatever. But in Bitcoin, nothing stops the move. It simply just continues to unwind until it finds support, and then it'll build a base or start to tumble down further, you know, like, and build another base. Or at that point, when accumulation starts to outstrip that, it begins to rise. Like it's fabulous. Like I find, for nothing else, in terms of enjoying patterns, Bitcoin's very interesting to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. It's definitely very interesting. Phil, if you don't mind, let's move on to the news of the day.
Yeah.
So today we got some pretty interesting news. Casa. So let me show my screen. So Casa, I don't know if you guys know what Casa is, but it's definitely really cool. It makes multi-sig very easy. So, and the reason it makes it easy is because it has a really cool UI, right? You could definitely check it out at keys.casa. And, you know, they could basically explain to you what it is, but basically it's a multi-sig, right? And they kind of keep a key as a backup. So in case you lose a key, right, for whatever reason, you know that you could depend on one with them, right? So, and they kind of, you know, make this very easy through their user interface and their user experience, right? So this is kind of weird. When I saw it this morning, I woke up and I checked my Casa first thing in the morning, because that's what I do. I like to check my Bitcoin balances. And the first thing that I noticed is that they added a feature where now you could buy Bitcoin directly from the app. When I saw that, I was kind of hesitant, because, you know, when you tie a KYC to your balance, you know, that starts to freak me out a little bit. So
it starts to connect the dots.
Absolutely. They did mention this they did mention this for the privacy concerned user. They said, you know, they added some, you know, they said this is completely optional. But what Luke said, right, he's a pretty big Bitcoiner, is, you know, why haven't you guys, you know, added a full node yet, right? And then Lop, you know, goes on the offensive here. He says, I have no intention of allowing the pursuit of perfection to hinder progress in the right direction. But I call bullshit here. Yeah. And I don't know what you think, Phil, because Casa's already had their venture with nodes, right? They've had Casa 1 and Casa 2. And to be honest, I had Casa 1 and I converted it to my Bitcoin node BTC, which is really cool. You guys should definitely check it out. And the problem that I had with the Casa 1 node, Phil, was that, like, dude, it was so close. It was like an Apple device, you know, like they don't want you to do anything that they don't design themselves, right?
That's right. It's very constrictive. And don't get me wrong, you know, you and I discussed this before the show. You know, for mom and pop, that's exactly what you want. You want something simple, something easy that they can just get going. But the reality is that, like, once you do get this going and you realize the implications of it, you are going to want to change your settings and make them optimal, and you wouldn't be able to. So that was a difficult thing about the Casa 1. As you know, I had a Casa 1. I still do, but I've retired it now. And I got the Casa 2 and was disappointed by that rollout. But yeah, I definitely call a little bit of bullshit on that, and I think it's just some marketing. And to be perfectly honest, I think it's just a way to shore up some, I guess we'd say some, regular cash based on transactions. Because I'm sure that's some type of agreement.
Absolutely, and I think that they're taking the wrong direction. They should be heading towards allowing, because what does it cost them? It doesn't cost them anything. Spending some time on development, but it's already built. All you have to do is integrate it. That's not very difficult, right? From a development standpoint. So, eventually, I think, as a Casa user, like, eventually they're going to have to add some option on the app to allow people to connect to their own nodes, right? Like, they can't be focusing. Like, what the fuck is a multi-sig wallet company doing, adding buying functionality to the wallet? That's sketchy as hell. That commingles your balances with your purchases, right? Like, all in one place for people to find, and like, that's fucking sketchy. I saw that and I was just like,
that's difficult to swallow.
Not good. So in other news for today, we got some boomer news, and I think we touched upon this earlier on in the week, but basically older investors go for gold, younger ones go for Bitcoin, JP Morgan says. And it's a really interesting headline. It's on Bloomberg. The reason it was really interesting is because, like, instead of thinking, if you widen your time preference a little bit, Phil, and you stop thinking in like years, right? And you start thinking in decades, which is how you're supposed to think when you're trying to accumulate wealth. Like, the older generation, they're just going to get older, and then you're going to see this wealth transfer, which happens every generation. You're going to see a wealth transfer to the younger generation. Yep. And what's really cool is that the younger generation are not looking at that piece of rock, that shiny piece of rock, as a store of value. They trust Bitcoin a lot more, right? So I thought that was really interesting, Phil.
It's a perfect storm, right? Because they don't really care for the shiny yellow rock, and they've all been disillusioned by the stock market and equities.
Absolutely, because it's just so rigged. It's like rigged against you right off the rip, right? So I completely agree with that. And guys, to promote the podcast of the week, it's Phil's podcast. I'm running late. I was supposed to release it on Tuesday. It looks like I'm going to release it this coming Tuesday. I had a lot of shit coming down this week. Phil was the man. He released my podcast yesterday. Guys, go check it out and subscribe to Phil's pod, Fun with Bitcoin. It's pretty dope. Thanks. And guys, that's the end of the show for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tune in tomorrow if you want simply Bitcoin and no fucking shit coins. See you later, guys.